And earlier, we told you how today we want to make sure that we mainstream the issues that are more important to you, close to you. And so we decided that we wanted to speak to our various reporters who are on the campaign trails, get to know what their own observations are, what their own experiences are, what they think also about the electioneering of the campaigns they've been reporting, and perhaps what the challenges there are for the parties themselves and for the reporters, and how they look forward to the elections in themselves. So we'll try to touch base with our correspondent, not only in Accra. We'll speak to Latif Idris. We'll also be speaking to Erastus Asari Donko. We'll speak to a number of varied correspondents across the country.
We do have Erastus actually joining us, not to report on the campaign, but of course this issue that's been lingering on for a while now. But thankfully the KMA has elected a presiding member, and who is the Amekomhene Nana Edumenso Asari. But how did they get to this point? Erastus Asari Donko is our colleague with Love FM in Kumasi, and he joins us via phone now. Erastus, good morning.
Good morning. You're looking good.
Thank you, and I feel like saying congratulations to you on being able to elect a presiding member, even though he didn't vote.
Exactly.
So how did it go yesterday, really?
Well, I must say that some of our reports and subsequent discussions on radio in Kumasi also inured to this, because before the Kumasi Traditional Council invited the assembly members to the Menchia Palace, there was heated discussion on the roles that Nananum are playing to ensure that that deadlock at the assembly level is done away with. And in fact, true to their word, they invited the assembly members to the Menchia Palace, and they sat them down and said, well, you have failed a number of times to elect a presiding member, so we are getting one for you. And so they nominated Nana Makumhine, that this is the person we have nominated for Menchia, and they made them swear Otumfo's sacred oath that they are going in there, and the two contenders will step aside. They will nominate Nana Edumenso Asari, and they will second it, and then move that they elect him as the next presiding member. So indeed, all the assembly members came to the hall with their mind set that they were going to elect Nana Edumenso Asari. Now remember, he is not an assembly member, and so Menchia Palace wrote to the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly that they wanted to replace 3 of their reps at the assembly level. And so Nana Makumhine is one of the reps that they replaced there. They brought in, and then the linguist of Otumfo was also brought in, and another chief was also brought in as well. So when we started, the judge had to swear them in officially as members of the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly before we could go on onto the speeches by the 2 contenders. They all said that they are stepping aside, they are nominating him as the next presiding member, and then we went ahead to vote a yes or no on him. And that one, we had 100 votes going for yes, 22 no, and 1 rejected. Now, the 22 that many believe came from the government appointees who were indeed visibly not happy with the decision of Menchia, because they feel this is the person who was at the helm of affairs, agitating with other chiefs of the Kumasi Traditional Council for the exit of Kojo Bonsu, former mayor of Kumasi. And so they were not happy at all. Some did not show up at all, and those who showed up, many believe, voted no to his nomination.
All right, Erastus, we'll have to leave it here, but good job. You've been following this issue all through and through. We hope that this is really the end of it. Erastus Asari Donko, thanks a lot for your time this morning. Let's move over and speak to the Ashanti Regional Minister, one of our favorite resource persons who used to come on the show, but now he's based in Kumasi, Mr. John Alexander Akom. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Mama V. I miss you so much.
Yeah, we miss you. We terribly miss you.
Don't miss only women. Hey.
But Mr. Akom, this day has finally come. You now have a presiding member of the Assembly. So congratulations to you. Did you see this coming yesterday?
Yes, I did. If you had actually ventured to look at the atmosphere, it has moved from hostility to a point of the desire to get a person. But who was to come was the problem. But the desire to get a PM was very strong. Just that in doing that, people preferred candidates which were not across board, and that was the problem. So I saw it coming.
But there are some concerns that this new presiding member is coming from the palace. Do you have an issue with that as the main administrator?
Well, not at all. The point was still stand that we are a human institution, and we should be able to function and play together. And people who disagree can come to an agreement at a particular point, depending on how we consult. So I don't think it should be a problem. But it's also not out of place to place your genuine fears on the table, which should be addressed. And I think that the presiding member did address that in the acceptance speech, that is going to manage the assembly, not manage, preside over the assembly without fear or favor. It will be fair to all.
But the assembly must have lost a lot, before we even got here. What have you lost in not having a functioning assembly?
Mama, be a lot. You would realize that the main purpose of governance is to get governance to the lowest area possible, and hence the local governance structure, which when you come to the metro, it moves from the top assembly to the sub-metro, and then comes down to the unit committee level. Now, if they don't feel part of governance, it creates a problem. One of which is that there were occasions where KMA was even taking their rates. Somebody will go to radio as an assembly member and say, we don't know office, so don't pay. You lose revenue. You need money to do sanitation. You need money to do bridges. You need money to do drainages. And if you don't come together and you work across purposes, definitely citizens will not pay, and they will not feel part of it. And the KMA cannot do its duty as required in a manner that will bring development to the people. We lost a lot.
So now, I guess the bigger question is, when would we have a Kumasi mayor?
Well, unfortunately or fortunately, that question rests with the presidency. The authority is vested in the president, and he's the only person who can decide.
Are you putting up some names for him to consider?
The president hasn't called for any names as we speak, and I think in his best judgment, he will know what to do and will tell us. But for now, we don't know anything like that.
But especially when Kojo Bonsu's exit, there was a huge backing from the palace, and with this new presiding member in place, would there be, are you going to be liaising? Would there be a consensus building? Would you have somebody in mind, as in all the parties involved, before we hear a name?
Until the president speaks, I cannot speak on that subject, because that responsibility and that constitutional mandate and right does not lie with me. It is with the president.
Definitely. So what's going to happen today, a day after there's a new PM in place?
No, this one was just one-off meeting. So the next meeting is being planned immediately within the constraint of the law, either 14 days information or something, or is it 7 days? So the next meeting will follow, which will be a general assembly meeting. So that based on various ratifications and decisions can be made.
Did I hear yesterday that some allowances had not been paid for a very long time, even for the assembly members? What's going to happen?
We're not on the floor of the House. I did not hear anything. But as far as I'm concerned, a lot of the allowances have been paid. They are still going to be outstanding. And that one also shows that we need money to do some things. And if you don't come together, your revenue level may not go high, and it will impact on the payment. But on the floor of the assembly, we did not hear anything. The last time we had paid out to July, so August, September may be outstanding, but we'll be paying.
All right, sir. Thanks a lot for your time this morning. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thanks for speaking to us. That's the Ashanti Regional Minister, Mr. John Alexander Akon, speaking to us there. We also do have joining us via phone Dr. Eric Odrosai, who's a local governance expert. Roland will be speaking to him on the same subjects.
And we want to get some varied views on this. And we know Dr. Eric Odrosai, you also with the Institute for Local Government. But if you particularly look at the trend as it has transpired in Kumasi, it could have been anywhere else. Of course, that has also heightened the calls for us to make sure that we elect our MMDCs, etc. But what do you make of it? Well, we seem to have lost Dr. Eric Odrosai, a local government expert. We'll try as much as possible to get him back on the line. But we also told you that we want to make sure that from the perspective of our reporters and the team we have on the ground who are following the various presidential candidates and the political parties, we also get their own perspective about how the electioneering is ongoing and how the campaign is being conducted and how the challenges they are facing or not really are helping the way they undertake their reports. And so we'll be joined by people like Joseph Akable, Latif Idris will be joining us on the line. We'll also get our correspondents on the various regions also on the line to make sure that we get their own perspective on the subject of the electioneering. But we'll get that going very soon. But let's get some soundbites from the various presidential candidates in the first place.
The president commenced his campaign activities for the day at about 2 p.m., stopping first at the Abeka market. President Mahama, in a brief address, urged traders at the market not to engage in violence before, during, and after this year's polls. We just came to visit you. This is not a rally. I'm only greeting you and reminding you that we are voting on 7th December. Let's all have a good heart and be peaceful during the polls. The NDC presidential candidate then headed to Malamata Market, where he...
It is the same with the economy. If you create the impression that the economy is in crisis, Ghana is going back, despite all the scientific basis, even from outside, Moody's comes and upgrades us and says there's more confidence in Ghana's economy. We've gone from negative to stable. And then somebody who calls himself an economist can stand and say there was no Moody's upgrade. I can't think far, I can't think far. So government's first responsibility in job creation is to create a stable economic environment so that the private sector can grow. That's one. Then government's second responsibility is to make sure that our young people are coming out with the right skills for the world of work. Increasingly, our country has continued to change. And so our country is demanding a new set of skills. And so
And that's the incumbent John Dramani Mahama of the NDC. And Mama V, we have Joseph Akable.
Yeah.
And Joseph, you've been on the campaign trail for the NDC specifically. You've been monitoring, covering and monitoring a lot more of their report. What strikes you about perhaps if it's the reception, is about how the campaign is also conducted at the local level in all the places that you've been?
Well, so for the NDC, the strategy appears to be that the president, when he visits a place on a given day, he visits 3 places, and mostly they are places where he stops briefly. So mostly they are the markets. So he stops, he speaks to them briefly, he shakes hands, then he moves. Then at those points, he moves around with the parliamentary candidates as well. Then at the end of the day, that is the very last address that he delivers each day. It is a major rally where the 3, so as it were, if he is visiting 3 different places, So 2 markets, then 1 will be a park where he finally gives his address. So for the 2 spots, he goes with the parliamentary candidates for those areas. Then at the final rally, all the parliamentary candidates joins him at that for a grand rally where he speaks for a longer time. So that appears to be the strategy that the NDC is using, that is the President John Dramani Mahama. For the response, it has been very good for the president. And I'm sure it's one that the president himself will be impressed with. 2 days ago when he was at Kanishi, when he arrives, and for the supporters, you get a sense of a good number of people, more of a desire to catch a glimpse of the president or an opportunity to exchange pleasantries with him. So at Kanishi Market, you had traders abandoning their wares and following the president all the way through. And for some of them, we spoke to them and you asked them, where exactly are your things? Where do you sell your things? And some of them are way behind. So they are selling their things at the entrance of the Kanishi Market. The president enters. They follow him all the way to the market square where he addresses them. Then from there, they go back to the activity. So mostly when he visits such places, the entire place comes to a standstill. Then because more often than not, the areas are places that are closer to each other, you have some of the supporters also trying to follow the president to the final spot. So for instance, 2 days ago again, we moved from Kokompe, we headed towards Dakoma and then to Fadama. Okay. So you have supporters who followed him all the way from Kokompe through to Dakoma, then for the final rally at Fadama. So that has been the response for the president.
If I make a comparison with him and Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who is his main contender, I get to see that Nana Addo seems to have a lot more crowds. Is it that the pictures are deceptive in the media for the president?
They are not deceptive at all. I mean, I disagree on thinking that that is the case for the flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party appears to have more crowd than the president. I don't think that is the case. Yesterday, for instance, late in the evening, around 9 p.m., when we got to the University of Ghana, Central Cafeteria was full to capacity, no space. And one thing about the president's team is that even before he arrives at a venue, he doesn't just go to that spot. He has a way of rallying people to get to the place. So, for instance, yesterday when he got to the University of Ghana, he parks, the vehicle parks far away. Then the president goes up to Commonwealth Hall. Then all the way from Commonwealth Hall, he walks from Commonwealth Hall down south towards Central Cafeteria. So what that means is that by the time he gets there, apart from those already waiting, others will also follow all the way to that spot. At the Roland, it's a bit interesting if you follow and you watch.
Roland is trying to push you too much. Don't mind him. But what's been the central, like the core message, if you like? Is there a message that's been running through? Like if you say Kanishi, Fadama, Abeka, like is there a central message?
The central message is the fact that I've done so much and I deserve to be elected once more, and that is what runs through. And more often than not, he gives examples. He talks about the investment he has made over the years, and infrastructure is one thing that runs through. So we hear him often talk about the hospitals he has put up, talk about the University of Ghana Medical Center, you talk about the Accra Regional Hospital, you hear him talk about the Kwame Nkrumah interchange, you also talk about that at Kaswa as well. But once a while, he takes advantage of the platform to respond to a trending issue.
Okay.
So about 2 weeks ago when he was touring some parts of the Greater Accra again, that was the period where there were lots of talks about manifesto plagiarism. And at that spot, he took advantage to also reply the flag bearer of the opposition MPP, and he made a point again that how can I plagiarize a document that has not been published? And so at that point that the NDC had published theirs, and the MPP were yet to publish their manifesto. So that was an example of a response.
I think there was another response to Dr. Bawumia.
Yes, and that had to do with the fact that he saying that Dr. Bawumia was the governor of the Bank of Ghana. He spoke at Dakuma, where he says he was the governor of the Bank of Ghana.
At the time they did the redenomination.
Exactly, and even issues about the deficit in terms of GDP ratio being at 19%, and he says such a person is questioning him. And just the soundbite that we played just before I came in, he talking about the Moody's ratings and the fact that someone who calls himself an economist can't understand the fact that Moody's has upgraded us. And this was a point he made at Dakuma. Dr. Bawumia replied on Facebook. Then yesterday, he replies again. So apart from talking about his achievements, when there is something trending, he takes advantage and he replies to it.
So you're saying the president also does the politicking?
Yes.
And at the same time tries to enumerate by way of policy achievements?
Yeah.
Okay. We also would want to touch base with our reporter who usually reports for the MPP, but we'll proceed that with
I say usually reports for the MPP. It's like they've recruited him to report. He's our correspondent. He's our colleague.
Okay. Our colleague. our colleague who is with the NPP, because we have...
He's not with the NPP. He reports.
Okay. He reports. Is it for... Or
on the campaign.
On the campaign for the NPP. And Lateef Idris is there. But we would want to precede that very conversation with a soundbite from Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo.
The NDC presidential candidate started his tour by interacting with traders at the Kaneshie market. President Mahama had a brief meeting with the leadership of the market.
The bus for the New Patriotic Party's campaign has landed in the Anya Soutum constituency, and the reception and the response of the people has been massive, right from Tabora Junction to Alaji to the University of Pentecost campus. The response of the electors in this constituency has been massive. Now, the flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party has been addressing the university students. I'm talking about the students of the University of Pentecost. Nana Addo's message is straightforward and simple, that the students must think about their future, and that President Mahama remains a threat to the development of this state. We can take a listen to what the flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party had to say to the student body.
Every year since John Dramani Mahama became president, our economy has shrunk. Every year, shrunk. And this year, we are going to have the slowest rate of growth of our economy for 22 years. What it means is that your ability to walk out of here and get a job is being compromised right now. What I'm trying to leave with you is that 4 more years of John Dramani Mahama will mean that you have no future to go back to.
The parliamentary candidate for the New Patriotic Party and the incumbent MP of this constituency, Shirley Ayoko.
And the man there who we have designated to report on the MPP's campaign led by Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, Lateef Idris, is on the line. Because of how tired he is, was not able to join us this morning. But a very good morning to you, Lateef. We know the hard work you're doing for Joy News on that very campaign trail. We have to say again, congratulations for all the good reports. We commend you as well. But how has the masses been rallying around the MPP flag bearer for all the campaign stops that he's been having the last couple of weeks?
Well, thank you, Roland. The reception by the NPP supporters, I mean, it's been massive throughout the Greater Accra region, wherever we've been. And yesterday was no exception. Yesterday, the campaign team touched base at the Anya Soutum constituency. And the reception, Roland, it was unbelievable. We have people following the flag bearer right from Tabora Junction to Alaji to the Pentecost University, right down to Anya Market, where Nana Addo addressed party supporters. And the reception, Roland, is massive, to say the least.
Now, what has been the theme or the message that has been running through the campaign stops that the MPP flag bearer has been having?
Yeah, for a candidate who is now trying for the 3rd time, I mean, for election to become president, what Nana Addo has been doing is 2 things. One, he's been trying to punch holes in what President Mahama has done over the past 4 years as the vice president and 4 years as president. That is one. 2, he's also been selling his message to the people. Now, let's start with the holes he's been punching into the policies and programs of the NDC. We talk about the National Health Insurance Scheme, talk about senior high education. Now, Nana has been making the point that, I mean, he came up with the idea of giving Ghana free senior high education. The NDC at the time criticized him that it's not possible, it's not going to be done. But as it is now, the NDC is trying to implement it. Now, because the NDC is not the originator of the idea, they are finding it very tough to, implement that very policy. Talk about the National Health Insurance Scheme. NADO has been criticizing the ruling government that they've not been able to administrate properly the scheme. So the scheme, as we speak, is not functioning. Just that it's not been scrapped, but then it has failed totally under President Mahama. So he wants Ghanaians to give him the nod, bring him back on board to ensure that the national health insurance is brought back on track. Talk about the economy. Nanado has been making the point that President Mahama has brought the economy on its knees. So Ghanaians should bring the NPP back to bring it back on track. Talk about job creation. The New Patriotic Party say they have the track record of creating jobs, funding businesses, expanding industry, and so Ghanaians should give them the nod. Now, one interesting thing Nanado has been also saying has to do with President Mahama in person. He says that President Mahama's continued stay in office remains a threat to the security of the country. Now, that is interesting. For a sitting president to become a threat to the state, that is pretty a worrying situation. If it's not just for politicking, then that is something serious. Nanado has been talking about President Mahama in person. Now, yesterday, Nanado made a point about the fact that Ghana, at the end of 2016, is going to record the lowest growth rate for the past 22 years. And that is going to happen under the watch of President Mahama. Clearly, Nanado is trying to discredit what President Mahama has done over the past 4 years as vice president and 4 years as president. So he wants Ghanaians to try him. He says he tried in 2008, he tried in 2012, he couldn't make it. Now, this is the third time. He is begging Ghanaians to give him the nod. Just give him a try. Try him. That was also criticized by President Mahama that Nanado is going around begging the people for votes. Nanado also took a jab at the president. He said, yes, I'll continue begging. I'll not stop begging today. I'll not stop begging tomorrow. I'll beg the people for their mandate because their mandate to govern the people reside in themselves. So who else should I go to? So Nanado said he will keep begging the people for votes. So
sure. Lateef, where's the campaign getting to? When is the next stop?
Yeah, the campaign activity of the flag bearer takes a break today. He has to attend to some issues, and so today the New Patriotic Party, I'm talking about the flag bearer campaign activity. Is on hold.
All right. All right, sure. Lateef, we thank you so much. See you in the office later today. That's Lateef Idris, our colleague who's been reporting on the activities of the NPP's flag bearer, Nanado Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Joseph Akable has been reporting on the activities of President John Mahama and the NDC's candidate going into the December elections. And he's here in the studio with us. When is the campaign? Is the campaign on break as well?
It's uncertain for now. Yesterday, when we ended at Legon, the president's team, they explained that they may not continue with Greater Accra today. He might take a break, but if anything changes, they'll communicate that to us before he begins. So as it stands, even if he may visit other parts of the capital, it will be after 2 p.m.
Well, you as a reporter on the trail, I believe this is the first time you're covering the elections?
Yeah.
Okay, how challenging is it for you?
It's been very stressful. Yesterday
Charlie Masa, you are not married, you don't have children. Which one is stressful?
So what makes it stressful? Okay, so just a simple example is the fact that yesterday we ended at Legon at 10:30 p.m. So I moved home. I got home around 11:30. I have to come very early in the morning and ensure that the story is in for AM as well as radio. So you can imagine how stressful that can be.
Charlie, enjoy
Apart from the
experience.
movement on its own, because you are moving from one place to another and they are moving in a convoy. So when the president is moving, you have to rush quickly.
Yeah.
You don't have time often to get some food and eat and have it. So it's a bit stressful, but like you said, I'm not married. Even though I disagree with that point, it's still stressful.
You disagree with what points?
At the point about the fact that it would have been more stressful if I was married. You said that.
Okay, so
indirectly.
this is what we'll do. We'll package some maybe snacks for you anytime you're going on the campaign. Just let me know.
Some cashew. Some cashew.
Some cashew. Do. You have to talk to Elvis Kwashi for that.
But you don't have time to even go and get the food. So what will Kashi do for you?
The cash will be in the pocket.
Okay.
I'll eat in advance.
Talk to your manager, and then I'm sure he'll sort that out for you. But we have a couple of your comments, and Joseph Akable is not gone yet. We'll try to get some final comments from him before he goes. But we have Bonti Benjamin, for example, on Facebook saying that he said Northerners. Well, I'm not too sure. I think he wanted to say people who originate or come from the north. Understand that Akufo-Addo means by dam in irrigation. That they understand what Akufo-Addo means by dam in relation to irrigation farming. So if you think the one village, one dam program and the one district, one factory policy are not feasible, then you're joking. The whites were able to go to the moon because of their vision backed with action. And then we have Francis Anoche, President Mahama, quoted him on the matter of teacher trainee allowances, better to lose on principle than win using falsehood. We would not reverse the decision. And hashtag UCC Forum. This is a promise the president made with a view of avoiding unnecessary expenditure, only to realize that it wasn't well thought through before his unguarded tweet. Okay. His U-turn about the allowance speaks volume about his inability to deliver on the creation of the 5 new regions in the country. It's not feasible under President Mahama's government because he lacks the credibility when it comes to fulfilling promises. Has the doomsday crisis been managed or solved? Case study for Ghanaians, hashtag, he concludes. Essel Cole says someone promises health insurance in this country and others said not possible, but it came to reality. So let's leave them only if they would not squander our money. They can easily do it. If we can pay only one person judgment debt 50 million Ghana cedis without working, meaning we have money in the country. And this one from Worldwide, Lexus Worldwide says, they should know we are no more fools. We've been educated and there's no money in the system. So they should tell us how they will provide money for the Ayawa promises. The only way they can do that is to sell Ghana. Laughing out loud. We have a couple. Fearless. Kofi Fearless says, one student, one tablet. I can't think far. Is it a promise or a right? And another one too says, one village, one dam. Is that...
Is it that they are going? They are going to.
Is it that they are going to be making the water too, or what? The annoying part is it will be built in the north where there's water problem. Always. Hey, politicians, you go kill us. Oh. And this one, okay. Perhaps it's the way I'm reading. And we have Salifu Karim, one village, one dam in the north, where we are not told what type of dam it is. We don't have rivers in every village in Ghana. Yekple Kenzi Yen. I heard GM promising one chief, one car, and GM to us. So Nana those MPP is talking about industrialization and comfortability of the poor Ghanaian. And Salisu says 1 meter, 1 house promise made by John Dramani Mahama. And we also have Sana Mohammed, one student, one iPad. I love enter my classroom. That has no chairs. You still, at this your age, you still are in a classroom. I hear Nana has left the country again, and that's from Rich Boy Napo GH for UK. I can't think far. And Cosmos Dente says some of them don't have credibility to make promises since those ones promised have not been fulfilled. And then we have Mohammed MC. Mohammed MC, I think, says Nana is coming as president for life to Ghana. Dokirigu Swalisu, Nana all the way. Change is near. And Abdulmajid says John is on par. Some Ghanaians can still remember his previous promises in 2012. So we can say that his promises are empty calls because he did not fulfill. See, previous promises. Fulfill. Sometimes Facebook comments are just funny. Now we have to wrap up with Joseph Akable in the studio. But Joseph, in reporting, usually also you have to look at what the statistics and the analysis say. You know, the MPP, just like the votes they got in 2012 and the previous, they also have almost same kind of support base like the NDC. So sometimes the crowds can be deceptive.
Definitely, I agree with that. I mean, but one thing that we understand too is that it depends on the area that the president is visiting. So, for instance, when we went to Kokompe, that was when that video that went viral on social media. When you had
was it that bad as we saw in the video?
It was, but you see, those were people who they had an intention to do that. So they stood close to the roadside.
They had matched up.
They had matched up. They were just standing close to the roadside, just waiting for the convoy. And it was on that entire stretch from Kokompe all the way towards Dakuman. And for those who are a bit used to the Ghanaian electoral system, you know that more often than not, accounts tend to vote more for the NPP. That is how the trend appears to be. And that area is one area where you have most accounts residing in those areas. So you could understand some of these things happening there. So, I mean, definitely crowds may be deceptive, but we can't draw conclusions on them entirely. But another observation that has to do with the way they are utilizing music. It's on a lighter note a bit, the way they are utilizing music. For the NDC team, they have this. Mahama Paper is the usual one, but they have this Onapo song they play. That's EL. No, but if they have it differently. It has a bit of a local beat.
Like, I haven't even seen you, Po.
Onapo. So, John Mahama, Onapo, Mahama, Onapo. Then there's a way the people dance to it, and it appears to run through each place we go to. So, they have the way they arrange it. So, they play that. Then when the president is about to arrive, they play the Mahama Paper. Then when he is about to speak, they play the NDC anthem. And at that point, you see him signaling people to clap. Then afterwards, he begins to speak.
So
then
this is well coordinated.
Yeah.
Is it changing your personal life in any way?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
You're just a reporter.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that is good to know. But thank you so much. Love the experience. Enjoy it. This happens every 4 years. You'll miss it next year. Trust me. All right. So that's Joseph Akoble. He'll be bringing us more report as the president goes round to campaign. It's an election year. We're getting very close. This is on the front page of the Daily Graphic. 54 days more to the polls. So we're getting pretty close. That's it for a touch on the campaign trail. Keep those comments coming through, though, on Facebook and on WhatsApp. But we've